Hey everyone, so today I am going to be talking about how I studied in order to pass the RD exam for the first time. Just so you know, everyone does have their own way to study, ways they like, what works for them. Some people like to write out all their notes, other people like, to make flashcards, and read a lot. Some people like to study with people. That's just a disclaimer. Just because it's worked for me, it might not work for you. However, my first tip that I want to tell you is less is more when it comes to study materials. I've seen on the Facebook pages that people will buy all of these different study guides and test reviews and all of these things, and they still don't pass. And I believe that's because you have too many things spread out. Try to keep it down to a minimum and just focus on really understanding one study guide versus trying to learn 3 different study guides. Okay, so with that being said, I am going to talk to you about what worked the most for me. The number 1 study guide I used, actually the only study guide I used, is Inmin. I have tabs, and as you can see, I highlighted things that were important. Okay, so let me talk about Inmin for a little bit. This is probably the most popular study guide. If you can get yourself a hand-me-down, please do so, because it is very expensive. It is $500 something just for the review guide and the audio, and it isn't updated every year. So love that. Love when my video gets cut off or a wrong number. So where was I? Oh yeah. Okay, so I compared, this is the 2017-2018 version my friend gave me, and I compared it to the 2015 version, and it is almost identical. Maybe there's just the page numbers are different. The content is exactly the same, and it's also being compared to 2020, and it's still the same. I know the test is changing in 2021, so if you still feel the need to buy the latest version, I know some people just feel like they should, maybe buy it with a friend and share it. So if one of you are taking it first, then split the cost. One studies from it first, another studies from it after, that sort of thing. So it's very expensive and it doesn't change very often, so if you can get yourself a hand-me-down version, do so. I know some programs give their interns this. That being said, so what I did was I read through this probably a total of 1 time, and as you can see, I highlighted and I got colored pens and I wrote down all the highlighted things in it. And like I said, it's a hand-me-down, so I also had notes from my friend who had before me and passed the exam on her first try as well. So I had those notes, and I was gonna then go back through my colored pen rewritten notes and make flashcards out of that, but honestly, I just ran out of time. I go through study materials like this very slowly, really to absorb it. I know some people go through it really fast so they can and they absorb it faster. That's fine. I read very slowly, so this was one of the things I primarily used, but I didn't use it so much to learn the material, but just kind of reinforce what I already knew. Okay, so that's the first thing I did, was read and take notes on Inmin. So if you're, trying to keep track, I think this is most useful because of the practice questions in the back. So what I did was I had a friend for 2 times a week for 2 hours, so 4 hours total a week. We would just go through the questions and talk them through. So we would look at the question and think of the answers to ourselves, and if someone got it wrong, then the other person would explain, and vice versa. If we both got it wrong, we would go look up the answer in Inmin and try to discuss a way so we could remember it. And talking it through with somebody else who was at the same learning level as myself was very helpful because we are both learning together. If you have a study partner, first of all, the study partner is so helpful on days where you start getting really tired. It helps to just talk to somebody else and keeps you awake. True. If you are studying with someone who's too far above your level, you might feel inferior and just kind of down on yourself that you can't keep up with them. And if you're studying with someone who's like way below you, then you're just going to be teaching them the material all the time, which is helpful, but you're not getting as much out of it. So really studying with someone who's at the same level as you, who can really teach you things and learn with you and keep up with you, whether it's someone in your internship or someone you graduated with or someone you met on a Facebook page, would be helpful. So that is my number one resource that I used, was the Inman. A second really helpful tool was study groups on Facebook. If you are interested in them and you aren't in them already, send me a DM or leave a comment below and I will tell you what the exact names are. I don't have the exact names of them right now, and they're not really my groups. I think they're just called RD study groups, RD free sessions, something like that on Facebook, and you have to be approved. So you kind of have to say like, when are you planning on taking the exam, I think, and like where are you doing your internship, so they know it's like only interns that are joining the group and not just a bunch of random people blowing it up. In those Facebook groups, people post their questions that they're stumped on, and you can do the same. So it really helps you. You're getting Facebook notifications, and like throughout the day you can just look and see, oh, do I know the answer to this question? Oh, that question's really hard. How do you do it? I got stuck on that question too. So they'll be posting questions from Inman, from various different study guides. So you'll be exposed to a lot of questions, and I also posted a few questions in there as well that I was stumped on, and it really helped hearing from somebody else why the answer is that answer. Number 3 would be the PocketPrep app. Okay, so I downloaded it in May, June 2020, and they have since updated the app. So when I first, and you have to pay for, you should pay for like the premium, whatever. Now they changed the premium to monthly, so if you want to pay for the month or two before, maybe just a month of your exam, maybe do that, because after I took the exam, they cut me off from the app, and the app that I had doesn't even work anymore. So, because they updated it in August 2020. So now the premium was like a flat fee of $25, I think, and now I think it's like $20 a month. So yeah, that's kind of annoying, but you only really need it for a month or two, so keep that in mind. But I definitely think it is useful. So what that app is there's daily questions, and you can also make custom quizzes. You can pick how many questions you want. With the premium, you can pick how many questions you want and from what domain. So if you know you're struggling in domain 1 but you have domain 4 down pat, then don't study you could pick to only study domain 1. So if you're bored or you're in the car or waiting in an office somewhere and you just need time to kill, instead of like staring at your phone, staring at Instagram, then just go ahead and answer a few questions. I think they also have like 10 question quizzes that just take a few minutes to answer, so you can really test your knowledge using that app when you have spare time. So I think that app was definitely very helpful to me. What else did I do? So those were the 3 main things I did. I'm trying to think. Oh, and Quizlet. Number 4, Quizlet. Just Google RD exam Quizlet. There's some users post like the entire Inman but in Quizlet form, so that is how I learn best. It's just repetition, and I knew I wasn't gonna have time to handwrite a bunch of flashcards of everything I needed to know or make a Quizlet of my own, which I know you learn better by like making something yourself, but I just knew I did not have the time. If I did that, I would have spent too much time making the Quizlet and not enough time learning the information on the Quizlet. So I went ahead, did Quizlets every day as well. Something I touched on at the beginning was a few days before my exam, maybe like a week before my exam, I realized that there are a lot of different resources of practice tests, some from CDR itself and others just from, you know, various review book companies that you could buy review books full of practice questions. And I really wanted those because I know practice questions were how I was learning the best, by like reinforcing what I knew and then showing what I didn't know, and then I could go back and learn it and figure out why it was the correct answer. So I really wanted those. And then but I knew like it was too late for me to even order them, and they were very expensive. So what I have to say is I'm glad I didn't buy it, because I did not buy them and I still passed the test based off the practice question just from Inman and PocketPrep app. And let me tell you, the way that the RD exam asks questions is you're not going to see those questions exactly how they're written out in a study guide. So for example, Inman has all the material you need for a study guide, for all the material you need to know for the exam, but the questions are written in just like a way that are a straightforward answer, and the RE exam questions are not written so straightforward in that manner. So if you know all the answers in Inman and you're getting those questions correct, then you have the information to then apply to the RE exam, which you have to think a little bit more critically to answer those questions. So that's just something to keep in mind, that I'm happy I didn't get the practice questions book, because learning the material is more important than studying all the different types of practice questions. Okay, so now I'll talk to you about my study routine. So for my program, we had to take a mock RD exam as our like competency. So I had already taken the RD exam, but yeah, so I was studying a lot for that final, but that was in July and my test was in October. I booked my test in late August, so I had exactly 5 weeks to study for it. So what I did was I started with 3 hours a day, and then I would add on an hour every week. So for the first week I would do 3 hours, then 4 hours, 5 hours, and eventually the last week I was studying for 7 hours a day. It made me feel like I was doing a sufficient amount of studying without getting burnt out. Because I know a lot of people are curious how, you know, what my schedule was. I'm not super type A that I planned out, okay, I'm going to study 20 Inman pages today, or yeah, because I know I read really slowly, so like 8 pages was like a good goal for me per day. If I got through like 12 pages a day, that was like really good for me. So what I did was, say it was a week where I was studying for 4 hours, and I had my study session with a friend on Tuesday. So for example, Monday I would do, if it was just 4 hours, no study session, 2 hours reading and reviewing Inman, and then 2 hours of Quizlet, and a 20 question quiz on PocketPrep between the two. Yeah, so I'd study Inman for 2 hours, take a break, whatever, do a 20-minute quiz on PocketPrep, and then for the remainder of the 2 hours I would do, or 4 hours, whatever, I would do Quizlet questions. So that kept me from just staring at a textbook for 4 hours straight, or staring at Quizlet for 4 hours straight. It kind of broke up my brain, but it didn't spread it out too much. It was only 2 resources. Okay, and then if it was a day where I would be studying with my friend, I would do 2 hours with her, 1 hour, and then that would give me 2 hours left. So I would do 1 hour in Inman, and then the 20-minute quiz, 20 question quiz, and then for the remainder of the hour I would do Quizlet. So it really wasn't too much, and then that would just build up. So for like a 6-hour day I would do 3 hours Inman, 3 hours Quizlet, or 2 hours with a friend, 2 hours Inman, and then 2 hours Quizlet. So it was never like I was like, oh, today I need to read all of Inman. Like, it was just very like not structured but simple, just with Inman and Quizlet. So I just built it up, so as you're adding more hours you're just naturally getting through more material. And then I left the week of my exam was on a Friday, so I left like starting on that Monday. Then I started that last week, instead of doing that same routine, I did just a bunch of practice tests. So I found online the CDR released like practice questions, or an admin, like I would know the percentages. So it was like 25% from domain 1, 40% from domain 2, and then 35% of the test is from domains 3 and 4. So I would kind of make my own practice test of 145 questions using that amount. So I would do like 36 questions from here, 80 questions, like just so it adds up to 145, with the percentages like it would be on the test. That way I was, you know, kind of exposing myself to the same percentages as it would be on the test, and I was building like my stamina for being able to sit down and answer 145 questions straight with no distractions. And I would do that every day. One day I did it, I was able to get through 2 practice tests, and I was averaging about like an hour to get through 145 questions. So I kind of knew going into the test that, yeah, it would take me a little bit longer, but like at least I knew I could, that's like was the baseline. So even if it took me like a little bit longer, like an hour and 30 minutes to answer 145 questions, I knew I was still at a good speed getting through those questions. And that's kind of, I think that's the amount of time. No, it took me like 2 hours to get through 100, maybe like 1 hour 45 minutes to get through 125 questions on the real exam. And then the day before the exam, I spent learning all the lab values, learning can sizes, and atomic weights, because, was there any other numbers? I think that was all the numbers, because, oh, and the diabetic exchange list, really like breaking down those numbers. Lab values are important, so if you're going to remember any numbers, know the lab values. Just because, well, lab values I was exposed to as I was doing a lot of the practice questions, but my brain works, like I can short-term remember and regurgitate numbers. Right now it asked me them. I don't know them as well, but just to like get them on the test, I didn't want to learn them 2 weeks before the exam and then forget them. So I knew like all I needed was the day before just to review the numbers, and they're really not that hard to learn, and just kind of you have to look at them and see a pattern, see ways. Oh, and dishwashing temperatures, I learned that too in that day. So that's basically all I did. Yes, I did study the day before, and reviewed the numbers the morning of. A lot of people say they don't recommend doing that, but for me personally, I talked about this in my other video, that I knew if I failed it, I would have been like, oh, I should have studied that day, because I know some people that did not study on that day before and they did not pass it. So that was my study routine for passing the RD exam on the first try. The last tip I have is when you're answering the questions on the actual RD exam, think about what you did in your internship, especially with food service questions. I did my food service and general clinical rotations at a VA hospital, so when I was taking the test, I was just thinking, well, what did they do at the VA? And also for the WIC questions as well. What did they do at WIC? What was important at WIC? What did they look at? What didn't they look at? What didn't they really care about? And the internship probably will help you the most. I was able to do 3 normal rotations before COVID. So if you're a COVID intern like me, I feel you. So try to do what you can. If your internship is back up to normal, then good for you, and really pay attention to what you're doing there and what they look at and the medications and things like that, because the best way to study is application and the internship, and that's why you do the internship before you take the RD exam. So, because if not, they would just let you take the RD exam without a whole internship. Please just give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and you would like to see more like it. Comment below if you have any questions regarding how I studied for the RD exam or the exam itself, and I will do my best to answer it. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a new video, and follow me on social media. My links are below. Until next time, bye!